Okay, it's coming up 11 o'clock, so I can start in just a moment. Okay, well, good morning and welcome to today's training session, which is all about using Instagram stories. So this is a basic introduction to using Instagram stories in your business. My name's Andrew Knowles. I have been delivering training courses of various sorts to businesses for the last 25 years or so. And the last 12 years, I've been very much focused on small businesses. I've been running my own business for the last 12 years. I started out 12 years ago as a freelance copywriter, quickly got back into the training groove, started using social media, started training other people in using training media, in using social media. So that's what I've been doing for the last 12 years or so, alongside my copywriting work. And why do I provide free courses like this, free online courses? I've been running free online courses like this for the last few months, and I intend to continue delivering free courses. I still run paid courses as well, but why do I do free courses? Well, I'm a small business owner. I understand that small businesses work to a tight budget, and you don't often have the luxury of being able to spend a lot of money on training. And a lot of the free training that I've taken over the last few years has been more of a sales pitch, to be honest. A lot of free training courses are more sales pitch. There might be, in an hour and a half's training, you might get 2 or 3 nuggets along with 45 minutes of being sold to. Well, my training courses aren't like that. I'm much more focused on giving value. And also I keep my courses short so that each one focuses on a particular subject. So this one is all about Instagram stories and covering the basics. It said it's an introduction to using Instagram stories. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to present the rest of this session from my iPhone, because Instagram stories work best from an iPhone or a smartphone rather than a desktop computer. So I'm going to stop the screen share from my desktop, and I'm going to move to a screen share from my iPhone. So let's just do that. So share screen. Start broadcast, and I'm hoping that you can see in just a moment the Instagram screen. Okay, so yep, so the Instagram screen is now being displayed. That's the screen that's being shared, and I will run the rest of this session from my iPhone rather than from my desktop computer. So if you want to follow along, if you've got Instagram on your own phone and you're wanting to sort of learn alongside, then that's a great thing to do. The best way to use tools like Instagram stories really is to play with them. And one of the first things I recommend that businesses do in order to start messing around with tools like Instagram stories and reels and things like that is to open another account, a test account, a playground account, an account where you can post random stuff and nobody will notice. It can be a public account, it doesn't matter. And that's what I do. I have created an account on my Instagram. That's the account that I'll be using for this training session. So I've created an account called Cucumber and Brown. It's just a playground account. Everything that's posted on there is entirely random. It just tends to happen either when I'm testing new features. So I use this account for testing new features because they're constantly bringing out new features, Instagram. And also I use this for training courses such as this one, because then I don't have to worry about the content being high quality in terms of my own brand. I just need to worry about the content being good enough to show you, the people who are attending these training sessions. So we're looking today specifically at Instagram stories. They've been around for about 5 years or now, Instagram stories, short life posts. The idea was stolen from Snapchat, and they've proved to be hugely popular. There are some businesses that do really, really well from really focusing on Instagram stories. So let's just get back into that. And then what I should have done was I should have turned my sleep mode off, I think, but never mind. Let's see if we can manage without changing the settings. Have we lost the phone? Have we lost the screen share? I think we may have lost the screen share. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into settings, and it's my mistake here. I should have set this up before the session. And I'll just change it so that the screen does not turn itself off after a minute of not being used. Then I'll turn the auto lock off to never. Right, so I'm just going back into Zoom now because I think you've lost the screen share. So I'm going to go back to sharing the screen again. So I'm sharing the screen from my iPhone so that you can see what I'm doing as I go through the Instagram stories. So the purpose of this training session is to introduce you. So you may well have used Instagram stories. You may well have come along today because you think, well, I know how Instagram stories work, sort of, but I really want a bit more confidence, because that's really the purpose of this session, is to help you become more confident user of Instagram stories, and also to encourage you to use things like highlights. So what are highlights? So highlights are those little circles across the middle of the profile. So right now, I'm looking at my profile, the profile for Cucumber and Brown, my training account, and I've got those highlights there. Now, those highlights aren't terribly meaningful. Title, email, 17th of October. What do they mean? Well, they don't mean anything, because I said this is a training account. So let's go and find somebody else's account. So let's go and find, well, let's see if Dancing Mooses have got, there you are, Dancing Mooses have got highlights. I follow a random number of accounts on this training account. So there's various random things that you'll see as we go through the session. And Dancing Mooses have got 3 highlights. Those 3 highlights are the 3 circles that go across the middle of their profile. And highlights are a great way for you to create engaging content that sits on your profile indefinitely for as long as you want it to. The concept behind stories is that they are short life. A story has a life of 24 hours. However, you can give a story, a particular story, additional life by turning it into a highlight. And I'll show you how you do that later on. I just want to talk about highlights now so that we'll come back to it later. But so let's choose, I'm going to choose the middle highlight there, the one that says drink. So what happens if I click on that? So it's going to fire up a story. I'm going to pause the story. So if you put your finger on the screen, that will pause the story. And that's it's showing me a particular drink, I guess, from these guys. The Rosa Parks, charcoal cream, salted caramel. I'll take my finger off just so it moves again, and then I paused it again. And I'll now take my finger off again. And what the Dancing Mooses account is using is it's using this highlight to show off, to showcase a whole load of different drinks, but also to give some information. So it's talking about the fact that they're coming to Salisbury tonight, apparently. Although it tells you at the top where it says 107W, that tells me that this story was originally posted 107 weeks ago, like 2 years ago. So these are quite old stories. So they're reusing these stories. They're keeping these stories in their profile. Okay, I'm going to come out of that. So why might you want to use highlights? Turn stories into highlights. Well, stories are a great fun way of engaging people. And then by turning them into a highlight, you can do things like giving people a glimpse behind the scenes. You could have an About Us highlight. So in the same way you might have an About Us on your website, you can have an About Us highlight that says, this is who we are. And give them some sort of fun, engaging content that talks about who you are, who the business is, who the people are behind the business, who the person is behind the business. You could use a highlight that focuses on particular products. For example, they've got highlights on here that talk about drinks and food. You're going to have a highlight that talks about why you do what you do. You're going to have a highlight that talks about coming events that you've got. You can highlights that show off past events. You can use highlights for all sorts of things. It's limited only by your imagination. So I said, highlights are reusing stories, but we haven't started on stories at all yet, Andrew. So let's get creating a story, shall we? So let's do that. So I'm back on the profile for Cucumber and Brown, the training account. And typically the way that I create a story is by pressing the plus symbol in at the top of the screen. So the top right hand of the screen, there's a little plus symbol next to the menu symbol. There are other ways of getting into stories. If I just if I scroll left to right, will that do it? Okay, no, it's not. I'll just ignore that. That's the great thing about navigation. There's around apps like Instagram. There's different ways of doing it. Is it a pull down? No, it's not a pull down either. There we are. It's I said a little while since I spent a lot of time doing stories. So forgive me if my memory of how some of these things is a bit rusty. But I tend to use the plus symbol anyway, because that brings up a menu of options. Do I want to create a post? Do I want to create a reel? Do I want to create a story? Now, you might see the menu presented differently. Different apps, different versions of the operating system, different phones might show it slightly differently. And also where you are in your journey of using Instagram, it may show you these options slightly differently. The important thing is looking out for the story option. So I'll choose story, which is the third option down. And this takes me to the story screen and it immediately opens the camera. So it's immediately showing you what's on my desk right in front of me, which, as you can see, is a glass of water and a keyboard. And then I've got the screen in front of me. There we are. And I could immediately create a story by taking a photo, by just clicking the big button on there, and I can immediately take a photograph of something and use a story for that. So there we are. Let's go for that pen. Let's just create a story there. Boom. And I've clicked the button and I've immediately taken a picture, and I can turn that into a story if I want to. But I don't want to do that. I'll close that. So I'll just discard that and just and go back to the start. So this is my desk that you're looking at, and I'm actually going to create a story by using a picture from my library. So this is the phone. These are the images that are stored on the phone. You can use this just as well on an iPad or a tablet. You can create stories, as I said, from a desktop, but it's not so straightforward. So it's opened now my store of photos that are on my telephone, on my mobile phone. Telephone, my goodness, there's a word you don't use very often these days. And there's a random mix, obviously, and I'm going to let's choose the Canada hat. It's lying around my office. I took it just earlier on, just so I had some stock photos to use. And what I can then do is then I can add some content to the story using the options across the top. And let's just take a quick peek at these. What we'll do in a minute is we'll go and look at other people's stories, but this is just introducing you to the process of creating a quick story. And I've got several options across the top there. From left to right, there's the X, which cancels the media. There's the little download symbol, the arrow pointing down. There's the music symbol. I could add music to this if I want to. There's the link symbol. I can add a link to this. Now, you can't right now add a link to a website address through a story unless you've got 10,000 followers. So for most small businesses, that really isn't an option. You can add a link to an IGTV video. So if you've already got some IGTV videos, you can add a link to that. But that's the only place you can link to unless you've got 10,000 followers. I have heard that they are talking about and they're experimenting with making the linking feature available to everybody, but that hasn't happened yet. And this is one of the challenges of working with things like stories. They're constantly changing and updating and experimenting. And sometimes you'll get a feature that somebody else hasn't got. Sometimes features will come and go. So, you know, you might hear about somebody saying, "Oh, I've got this great new feature on stories," and then, "Well, I haven't got that. Why haven't I got that?" That's just the way it works, I'm afraid. So going further across, the one that's really a great interest to a lot of people is the stickers. This is the third one in from the right. There's sort of a smiley face, and click on there, and you can put a whole load of stickers onto your story. So let's put some stickers. So I'm going to click on the location sticker. And immediately comes up with locations that are near to me. I'm in Weymouth, in Dorset, so it's picked up some Weymouth locations. Interesting. Let's put London down as number 4. Right, I'm nowhere near London. I'm going to put Weymouth, Dorset on there as a location for this particular post. And one of the great things about stories is you can move the items around. So I can put my finger on the sticker for Weymouth, Dorset, and I can literally just move it from left to right. I can, using my 2 fingers, I can make it larger. I can change the angle. So there I'm changing the sticker to say Weymouth, Dorset, and I'll put it onto the calendar on the hat. So I'm going to go back to the stickers, and I can choose other things. I can mention particular users of Instagram. So mention somebody else's account. I can use a hashtag. There's a whole load of different stickers there. And again, I recommend that if you want to get serious about using Instagram stories, experiment, mess around with these things, play with them, try the different options that are available to you. So I'm going to do a mention. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to mention myself on my main Instagram account, which is Andrew Explainer. So I'll click on there and I get a little sticker with my name on it. So I'm just going to twiddle that round and put that there. And there we are. So that's a very, very simple sticker. I can put some text on there as well. So there are various things you could do. I haven't got the time to go through all the different options. In fact, I haven't played with all the options because there are so many of them. And I'm going to choose text. So I'm going to go to the last item at the far left, right-hand end, the AA. I don't want to put some text on here, and I'll say, yes, I'm going to type my hat, exclamation mark. And then again, there's various ways of displaying the text. I can just click on these buttons here, and I can have just the text, or I can have it on a background. I can have it so that it sort of scrolls on. So I'm going to use my fingers and make it larger again. And you can see it's coming and going because I've got the sort of typing option set. You can change the colors. There's a whole range of things you can do. So let's just change the colors for that. Done. Okay. So there we are. So I've created a very simple story. Now you may be looking at this and thinking, why? And that's a really good question. Why? Well, hopefully you'll get a better idea why in just a few moments when I actually show you stories in use. So what can I do with stories? I can send them to, I can post them out to my friends effectively. So there's a couple of options down at the bottom there. I can share my stories with my contacts on Instagram. So that's the bottom left option, or I can share it with my close friends. You have the option in Instagram to mark people as close friends. And Instagram have noted that people are starting to use the close friends option as a way of creating, if you like, a list of VIP followers. So maybe you're following me on Instagram, but I could choose to make you a close friend. Even if you're not a close friend, I could make you a close friend and say, well, actually, the people who are marked as close friends are actually my VIP followers. And they will get special content. They will get insights and information that the other followers don't get. If you think of it, it's a sort of bit like an exclusive mailing list. And Instagram have picked up on this, and they've actually started to introduce a group function as well. But right now, I don't have the option to post to a group here. I can post to my stories or to just close friends. And the stories can be Instagram stories and Facebook stories. You see the Facebook symbol there. So let's share this to my Instagram story. Remember, this is a test account, a training account, so it really doesn't matter who gets to see this. If you go and follow Cucumber and Brown on Instagram, you'll get the story coming up. And it's now asking me to confirm which Facebook account I want to post to. So I've got a test account as well on Facebook. And also that's the Cucumber and Brown Catering Facebook page, which again is a test page. If I want to share this on Facebook, yes or no? Stories on Facebook, it's worth talking a bit about stories on Facebook. I'll share that and then come back to stories on Facebook. Stories, you may have seen Facebook stories. They're very similar to Instagram stories. There's a separate option in the Facebook app to create stories. Stories haven't really taken off on Facebook in the way that they've taken off on Instagram. People love stories on Instagram, but stories on Facebook, the jury is still out, I would say, and certainly all the stuff I listen to from various social media experts is that the jury is still out, really. Facebook are trying to encourage people to use stories more in Facebook, but it's not really working. Facebook and Instagram, I'm sure you probably know this, but just in case you don't, Facebook and Instagram are the same organization. Facebook bought Instagram years ago, so they're very closely connected, hence all of the cross connection between them. Okay, so talked there about creating a basic story. So now let's go and look at some other stories from other people. So I'm going to go to my profile. Sorry, back to my news feed. So this is the news feed for Cucumber and Brown, and I'm obviously seeing the various Instagram posts from accounts that I follow and adverts and that sort of stuff. But we're not really talking about those today. Today we're going to talk about the stories. And you can see the circles right across the top there. There's a story, there's my story. If I click on my story, it shows some stories that I have created on this account. So there we are. There's the hat story coming up. And I'm going to close that by pressing the X in the top right. And then there are other stories being displayed across the top. You can always tell whether an Instagram account has got live stories because it's got this orangey circle around it. Now, obviously, all the ones across the top have got the orangey circle because that's the place where it shows you current stories. But also when you encounter people's profiles in other places, the profile icon, the orange circle will give you a clue. Are there any live stories? And remember, a live story is a post that lasts for just 24 hours. So I'm going to have a look at these. So let's go into the first one, which is My Wild Castle. This is actually an account run by my daughter. My daughter runs a small business, and actually she's one of those people for whom stories are a very valuable part of her business. She's relatively new to her business. I'm not trying to promote her on this. She's a good example because she is somebody for whom stories are fundamental to what she does. So there we are. So let's just pause and talk about that. So the way stories work is that a picture or a video is displayed for a short period of time. There are a series of white bars across the top of the screen. Because I've paused it, you can't see the white bars. And on this particular one, you can't see the white bars anyway because the contrast isn't great. But you can see the white bar moving along, and that tells you how far you are through somebody's sequence of stories. Somebody might have a single post, which is just one story, or they might have a series of posts. Each post is displayed for typically a few seconds. If it's a video, it might be longer, it might be more like 15 seconds, but a picture just for sort of 4 or 5 seconds. My recommendation is if you are using story pictures, each one's displayed for 4 or 5 seconds, always aim to have 3 or 4 live stories at any time. Why? Well, because if someone glances at your story and it goes past in 5 seconds and they don't bother to pause it, the app will immediately jump them to the next story in the sequence from the next Instagram account in the sequence, and it'll move on from you. So if you want to hold someone's attention for a bit longer, then you want to have more than just one picture on display at any point in time. Yes, people can pause it, and some people will pause it, but not everybody will do that. So I'm just going to take my finger off here and leave this to run. So it's now jumping to the next one. And I'm not going to go into detail of what these stories are, but I just want to give you a feel of what's the sort of experience of stories. And you may have done this, you may have seen this yourself, but you can see it's a fairly fast moving environment. What you're looking at here is the stories live, and there's various things on the screen. There's bits of video, there's some text on the screen. Some of the video tells a story effectively. Time for some me time. There's a bit of a story going on there. Slightly longer one because it's a video. You can jump forwards and backwards. So I can jump backwards by just tapping on the left-hand side of the screen. I can jump forwards by tapping the right-hand side of the screen. And if I jump beyond this, then I jump to the next story. Well, the next story is an advert because it's Instagram and they want to advertise to me. But I can likewise jump through the advert. So let's get rid of the advert. Tap on that a couple of times, and I'm into GF Electrical. So he's got just one story, and then on to Dancing Mooses. We looked at Dancing Mooses right at the start of the session. Again, they've just got one story element. Then I'm on to Crafty Cow Design, and you can sit and watch stories indefinitely. You just go through them one after the other. And some people do that. They'll sit here and they'll consume stories. Let's just go past this one. There we are, and I'll put my finger on this one again. So we'll pause on this one. But you see, it's a very fast-moving environment. So it's a very engaging environment. People like stories because of this. And it's very informal and relaxed as well. And often there's more on a story that you can take in. For example, this story here, it's got an image, it's got, there's the A board with some text on it, Barista & Co. There's text on there, it's telling you it's open when it's open, it tells you what they do. They're serving hot food and drinks and that sort of things. Often there's more information than you can take in. And some people just absorb the impression of a story. Some people actually want to go into the story in detail. They'll pause it and they'll follow some of the links and things like that. So let's go through a couple more. Okay, so I'm going to pause on this one. Now, I mentioned earlier on that you can put somebody's name into an Instagram account name. You can tag somebody effectively in a story post. And there's two ways of tagging people. You can either tag them using a sticker, as I did earlier on when I put a sticker on a post, or you can tag them by putting their account name in the text, as is the case on this particular one. And these tags are clickable. So again, they're only displayed for a few seconds. You don't have very long to click them, but obviously you can go backwards. So I'm going to take my finger off and I'm going to click on the tag, and it pauses it, and it opens a little pop-up. Do I want to go and look at the Bowflow account? Well, where's that going to take me? Is it going to take me to Bowflow stories, or is it going to take me to, well, let's click on it and see. So it takes me to the Bowflow account page, the profile on Instagram. Tagging people is a great way of getting visibility on Instagram, because when you tag somebody, they get notified that you've tagged them. So if you're talking about somebody else's product or a location or something like that, and they've got an Instagram account, then don't be afraid to tag them in a story post. That makes them aware that you've tagged them. They may well then choose to share your post. It may be that you're tagging somebody you collaborate with. There are groups of people business owners who collaborate with one another. They share one another's products and they talk about one another. And so there's a constant interaction between them. So make use of tagging. It's a great way of getting visibility and encouraging visibility between other small businesses. Now we can see here that I've come to Bowflow and they've got an orange circle around their profile image, which tells me they've got some live stories as well. I don't follow them, so I wouldn't normally see their live stories, but I'm here on their profile, so let's look at their live stories and see what they've got. Okay, and it's just one story, and it's very simple. It's a picture. What have we got here? It's Doris, and it's a snail. They've taken a picture of a snail on the window. There we are. So press X in the top corner, we come out of stories and leave that behind. So stories. That one, and we come out of stories altogether. And I'm going to go back and let's look again at creating a story for ourselves. So press on the plus button at the top, and you see now it's showing me the option to create stories differently. Previously, it was showing me a black and white menu. Now it's showing me an image. And it's showing me then the images on the camera below that, and it's giving me the story option as a line across the bottom there. So you'll see these options presented differently at different times. I'm sure there's a logic to it. I just can't bother to work out what it is. So back into stories, and let's create. Let's look at some of the options for creating stories now. So I won't go through every single option in great detail, but what you're looking at right now is the picture from the camera on the phone. So there are a series of options down the right, left-hand side. Double A at the top, then the sort of infinity symbol, and so let's click on double A. So the double A allows you to create it's called create mode, and it's where you just get a background, and then you can work with the background. So you can put a sticker on the background if you want to. So let's choose here. Let's put, I don't know, let's put the time on there. So you can move it around. So that's the great thing about stickers. You can move them, do what you like with them. I can put some text on here. Type in the text. There are different ways of presenting the text. So click on the options for different formats of text. So you can choose to have that appear as a typewritten element rather than typewritten text, as opposed to just static text. So I can use that if I want to. I won't do that. You have text with a background. Oh, let's turn that off. Just click on the background again. It turns it off. So done. Move that. Change the size of that. So there we are. So that's the create mode. Very simple. Very straightforward. And we'll just share that again. So confirm and share. There we are. Back to stories, and again, you choose the story option from the bottom of the screen. And then there are things like boomerang. So boomerang, if I click on the boomerang, do I want to create a short sort of reversing video? You may be familiar with boomerangs, you may not. So a short reversing video is something like, so let's just do this here. I'll just literally put my finger on the boomerang symbol and put my glasses there. I've got loads of pairs of glasses. And I'm just going to move the camera towards the glasses as I hold it down. And there we are. And that's the boomerang. It's very simple, just moving backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. You've probably seen boomerangs. People do sort of fun things like jumping, whatever. Again, I'm not going to keep that or use that, discard it yet. I want to discard this media. I have no desire to use that. Other things like layout. So on layout, you can have multiple images and you can change the grid on layout. So let's go to here and you can have a grid of up to 6 different images. And then I can just choose images from the camera, photo store if I want to. I can take pictures from the camera immediately. Again, I won't bother going through these in detail. It's really just to give you a flavor of what's available to you. Oops, stories altogether now. So I really encourage you to mess around with these options, to play with these options, to have a go at creating stories. And as I said earlier on, create a test account, a playground account, another Instagram account. You can, by the way, have multiple Instagram accounts on one device. You can have, well, they say up to 5 accounts on a device. I've found varying different numbers, to be honest. I manage a whole different load of different Instagram accounts, so I exceed the 5 limit quite often. But you can have up to 5 Instagram accounts on one device, and you can just jump between them quite easily. In fact, to jump between them, let's come out of stories and just show you that. To jump between them, so I'm going back to the profile here. So right now I'm in Cucumber and Brown, and if I click on Cucumber and Brown at the top, the text at the top, it says where do I want to go, and let's choose Andrew Explainer. So there we are. So I'm now using Instagram as Andrew Explainer. This is my main business account as opposed to my training account. Let's go back to the training account. So again, click on Andrew Explainer, the text at the top, and choose Cucumber and Brown. And I'm back in the training account again. Back into stories. And so there are various different options down the left-hand side, and it's worth playing with those and just seeing what works there. So I'm going to just choose another. Let's choose a bit of video, actually. I'm going to scroll down and just choose a bit of video. So I'm taking a bit of video now on my story, and I can shrink that video. I can move the video around, just put my fingers on the screen and move it. So you can have it full screen. I live by the coast, so take pictures of the sea from time to time. So I can move that here. Let's open it out to full screen. Let's zoom in a bit, actually. And again, you can add various things to it. You can add music. If I go into the music option, which is the music symbol, so there's a whole load of different music choices available to you as background music for your video or for your photo. You know, there's a huge choice available. I'm not going to bother adding music to this. You can also just draw on a story. So I'm going to click on the second symbol in from the right-hand side, the squiggly line, and that gives you the option to draw, and I can just choose a color, and I can just go, you know, something like that, and undo. There are masses and masses of options in stories. If stories are your thing, if you want to get into stories, you can spend hours creating stories, and some people do. Some people spend quite a long time crafting a story. There are third-party apps. There are other tools that you can use to make stories as well. And you can post stories from the desktop version of Facebook, but you don't have the same freedom to create stories on the desktop version. You don't have the same range of options. There are many, many more options available to you here. Oh, no, I came out of the video. So the other thing I wanted to do is to talk to you about using highlights. We talked about highlights right at the start. Highlights are a great way to create some quick links from your Instagram profile to talk about you, to talk about your products in a fun and engaging way. And so how do we create highlights? So I'm not going to bother with this story anymore. You've seen how stories are created, and so my recommendation is to go away and to do more for yourself and to really play with it. Okay, so how do we create highlights? How do we get those highlights at the top of or running across the middle of the profile? I've got loads of highlights on this training profile because I've run so many courses and I've often creating highlights on these courses, and I haven't bothered to delete them. Probably should. If I scroll to the far right-hand end, there is a plus symbol. Do I want to create a new highlight? I can edit an existing highlight, but I'm going to create a new one. And if I press the plus, what it's going to show me is my archive of stories. And these are all the stories that I have created in the past. So remember, story lasts for just 24 hours. But if you choose to turn the archive option on, I think by default, the archive option is not turned on. So what you want to do is go to settings on your device and find the archive settings. And in there, you'll find the option to choose to save all of your stories to your archive. Only you can see what's in your archive. Nobody else can see well, obviously Instagram can see what's in your archive, but you and Instagram between you. But when you then go to a highlight, you can turn that archive back, you can bring it back into life. So for example, the most recent highlight I did is displayed at the bottom of the screen here. It's the hello highlight, and then there's the hat highlight. So let's just mark those two. Select them, press next, and then if you remember that every highlight has a little circle cover on it. So what cover do I want for my highlight? Well, it's already defaulted to a picture of the hat, and but I can change that if I want to. I can just choose edit cover and say, well, actually, no, I want to use the other highlight as my cover, or I can actually choose a different image altogether. So let's choose a beach picture just because I can, and I'm going to turn this into the highlight cover. Click done, and then click done because I've edited the cover. And then, so you can see the picture now is the seaside picture. So the seaside picture is not in the highlights at all, but it's the cover for the highlights. So you can you look at some of the images, some people have a very consistent approach. They craft images to represent each of their different highlights. And then what do I want to call the highlight? Well, the default name is highlights, which is not very exciting. So I'm going to call this seaside. Again, it's entirely random, but this is a training account. It really doesn't matter. Press add. And there we are. If I scroll back, you can see that it's put that highlight on the far left-hand end. It's the most recent highlight in my collection, and it says seaside. So that is very simply how you create a highlight. Pretty straightforward. And if I go into it, then you're seeing the stories that I chose to put into that highlight. There are just the two stories. So close those down. I can edit a highlight quite simply. If I just click on the highlight and I can choose to delete it. So this is an old highlight. I can edit it, or I can send it somewhere. I'm going to edit it. If you choose to edit, you get the same options. It's showing you the story that's in that highlight. In this case, there's only one story, and it's giving me the option to edit the cover. So as I edited the cover just now, so there's not much there. Let's go back into File 1, which has got. Okay, so this one's got. Okay, so this one I tapped on, and again, sometimes you can get lost in the navigation. It can be tricky when you're using Instagram because you're not quite sure where to go next. So this one, I'm clicking on the highlight, which is marked 17th of October. It's immediately starting to play it, but if I click on the three little dots in the bottom right corner, the more, And then it's giving me the options that we had before, so I can edit the highlight if I want to. So let's choose to edit the highlight. And you can see this particular highlight has got 4 different stories in it. I can simply remove those by unticking a couple of them. And if I just swipe to, so I put my finger on the screen on the right-hand side and swipe to the left, and that opens my story archive, and I can put in some other stories instead. So there we are, done. So, oops. Oh, and so you'll see that because I've edited that highlight, it's now jumped to the far left-hand end again. So I'm not aware that you can change the order of highlights here. It will always default the most recently edited or added highlights to the left-hand side, and then it pushes the others across to the right. So there we are. So that we've talked through how you create a story, given you a quick glimpse of that, and I'm hoping that, you can go away and play with it yourself and give it a good go and get familiar with using stories. So that stories are really powerful. We talked about highlights and how you can create highlights, and I highly recommend putting highlights on your Instagram profile, because anyone who's checking you out on your Instagram profile, those highlights will get their attention, and you can create something that's short, fun, engaging, and relevant and informational to them. For them. The only other thing to talk about is sharing Instagram posts to stories, because you can do that. You can share Instagram posts to stories. So I'm going to go back to the news feed here. And this top one is a post from Crafty Cow Design, and it's got scones on it, or scones, depending upon how you pronounce. And there's the share button. The share button is the sort of paper aeroplane. So I can press the share button, and it's saying, do I want to share this post to my story? So this is an Instagram post from somebody, and I have the option now to share it to my story. Now, Instagram are making some changes to how this works. Some people found that they're not able to get this post to story share option anymore. They have to use a sticker when they're creating a post. To share. Sorry, they have to use a sticker when they're creating a story to share someone's post. I haven't encountered that option myself, but I know that's an option that some people got, and they tell me it's clunky. It's not so easy to use. Fortunately, I have the option to add a post to the story, so I can simply tap on that. So you can see there's the Instagram post from these people, and Crafty Cow Design. Again, I can change the size of it. I can change the look of it. Now, what I often do, it tells me that Crafty Cow Design with the original poster, just in the bottom left of the picture. But what I often do is I often tag the account. So mention Crafty Cow Design. There we are. So I've now got a sticker with their name on it, and I often actually put it over their name. And so why am I doing that? Why am I replacing their name, which is already displayed, with a sticker which says their name? What's the difference? Well, firstly, it's more obvious. It stands out better on this particular colorway. But also by tagging someone who's created an Instagram post, it alerts them to the fact that you've tagged them. And also it allows them to share your post. So it's easy to share someone else's post or story if you're tagged in it. So there we are. So I'm going to send that now. So there's a lot of post sharing that goes on. I talked before about tagging people, and post sharing is another way that people connect with one another and share and help encourage one another and build one another up on Instagram. Okay, so in this short session, I have hopefully given you some insights into using stories, given you some thoughts about using stories. Hopefully I've encouraged you to consider using stories to help promote your business. What I'll be doing is I'll be sending out a link after this session. I'll send out a link to a short YouTube video, and I'd be keen to get your feedback on this session. How useful was this? Was it relevant to you? And I'm very keen to hear how these sessions can be made even better. And if you have questions, you're very welcome to get in touch with me through my Instagram account. You can message me, you can email me, Andrew, you'll find all sorts of different ways of getting in touch with me. I'm on various social media channels, typically as Andrew Explainer. My email address is a bit more of a mouthful, so I didn't continue with that, but you'll find that on my website. But I've got a comment just coming up. Thank you so much for this valuable session. I'm glad it was useful, Judy, and that's what I'm keen to do. So there, thank you for joining me this morning. I hope that was useful, and look forward to hopefully seeing you on one of my future training sessions. The next one I'm running is on Thursday afternoon, when I'm talking about content creation. That one was fully booked. You'll find it on the ticket listing website, Eventbrite. It was fully booked, but I've actually just upped the numbers on that, so there are now spaces available on the Thursday afternoon content session. So thank you again for attending. It'd be great to get some feedback from you one way or another. And I hope the rest of your day goes really well. And I hope you really get into using Instagram stories for your business. What I'll do is I'm going to hang around here in the Zoom meeting just for another few minutes. If you want to say hello, ask me a question or two. I have got another meeting at 12, so I can't hang around for very long, but I will stay here for a short while, just for 4 or 5 minutes. If you want to speak to me, you are very welcome to. Okay, thank you and have a good day.